thank you all for attending the second day of creative performances of the New Mexico Shared Knowledge Conference. Coming up next is our first performer, MCZ Folklorico, performing Mexican folklore dances and presenting Day of the Dead.
So we were just dancing to kill time. That's what you walked into, but we do have a presentation prepared for all of you guys. So we're doing Day of the Dead, and it's pop culture references, its origins, and all that good stuff. We have treats and free things for you guys. So, you ready? Sorry.
So since we're doing it's otherwise known as El Día de los Muertos, but it's not just a celebration in Mexico, but it's picked up outside of Mexico, like in the United States, so it's Halloween, in Spain, in Portugal, and other parts of the Caribbean, and also in Europe. It's really just a way of recalling how our friends and family members, how they lived when they died, funny parts about their lives, stories that will be passed down throughout the generations, and basically a memorial of who has died in the past year.
So for Mexico's Day of the Dead, it's very specific. I'm sure all of you can identify with what that is. A lot of the face painting, a lot of dancing, a lot of festivals, that type of thing. But there's regions in Mexico that are specific to the festivals that they have. For the most part, one thing that I think you guys should know is that Day of the Dead is an Aztec or Mayan tradition, and it's pre-Hispanic, which means it dates conquest. So before the conquest, there were festivals and different things that took place. Do you want to add anything?
So basically what happens is, as my co-presenter already stated, Day of the Dead is basically a pre-Hispanic celebration. And it commemorates the ancestors that have been, and it's been recorded by pre-Columbian tribes for more than 2,000 years. So we have a pretty, it really, really dates back. Basically the skulls, before the Spanish explorers came, skulls were frequently maintained as prizes and were revealed during specific ceremonies which symbolized death and rebirth. So we're not talking really a linear progression of time, we're talking circular progression. And that's what kind of tends to throw everybody off. Our modern Day of the Dead ritual began in the month of August, which was called Mikantli Nili, known as the Feast of the Revered Deceased. This was followed by another month, or another celebration, which is known as the Feast of the Greatly Revered Deceased. And these feasts were celebrated in honor of the goddess of the dead. It's now associated, however, or more associated with the Christian holiday of Our Lady, or All Souls Day, and it's more associated with the figure of the Katrina.
Basically what she's saying, so all of you stay connected with us, is a lot of these things that you see now with the face painting, the dancing, the festivals that they have, these are not anything new. A lot of people in Mexico still practice these, but they imbibe, meaning they partake in drinking and other types of festivities. And with that, they also do have specific things pertaining to shaman and curanderos. I don't know if any of you know what that is, but so there's a lot of different aspects that go into this. It's not just one thing. What is Americanized is, in pop culture right now, is the face painting, the sugar skulls, and the altars.
So we kind of cut it down. We don't do a month celebration now. We do 2 days in Mexico. And it's usually the 1st and the 2nd of November. So that kind of falls on the Catholic celebration, like I was saying, of the Feast of the All Saints' Day. The first day of November is known as El Día de los Angelitos, or the Day of the Little Angels. And that's when the children are celebrated, the children that have died. The second day is the Dia de los Difuntos, which is known as for everybody that's died, so more the adult celebration.
You guys awake? How's your food? So I'm going to ask you guys a question. How many states are in Mexico? Because Mexico is very related to the US. They have states. They actually have a federal district as well. Take a guess, anyone? Oh. 36? 27? 9? Maybe before conquest, yes, there was 9. The closest, which one do you think? All of you stand up who gave me a guess? All of you who gave me a guess, stand up. I'm serious, stand up. Take a flower. Take a flower, and then green or red? There's 32 states. Green or red? You want a green?
Okay, so the beliefs during these 2 days are basically that they will come back. They're encouraged to come back by the scent of the flowers that you guys just picked up. In English, we know them as marigolds. The old Nahuatl term was the Sepusanchil, and that was, if you place them over the grave, they allegedly encouraged the dead to come back and visit.
Because the dead were able to smell the scent of a marigold, which is one of the, it's a folk tale. I think it's not necessarily fictitious because once you know your soul, you don't really have any senses, but there is a purpose to these type of flowers. Some say the gods have a lot to do with them, Aztec gods, Mayan gods, that whole thing.
So before we go on, I just want to let you guys know that for these 2 days, we do not venerate the dead. We don't worship them. Basically,
we do not worship the dead.
Yeah, we do not worship the dead. We basically just encourage and tell stories of their memories. We maybe wear articles of clothing or something that we cherish that came from the dead person. Things like that. We don't, there's really no, worship, well, how should I say this? We don't worship them. We just basically honor their memory. Okay, so during the year, there's a lot of plans that are made. We have probably the biggest one, and the things that you'll see most are basically the cemeteries. Okay, they go in there, they clean all the tombstones up. They go ahead and they make it look festive. And the traditional ofrendas, which are offerings for the children, are usually toys and their favorite candy. For the adults, it becomes a little bit more, of course, adult-like. They have their favorite drinks.
Adult candy.
Adult candy.
Tequila.
They have their favorite drinks, like the tequila.
Cigarettes.
The mezcal, pulque, atole. And both the graves of the children and the adults are also decorated by these marigolds, the Sepusanchil, which are thought to attract the souls of the dead for these offerings that are left for them. Okay. The ofrendas traditionally put in the family home, and small pieces of pan de muerto, or bread of the dead, are left there, as well as candy pumpkins, sugar skulls, and atole, which are left for the spectral visitors to enjoy. Once the visitors have left, then the living can partake of it, although the essence is said to have been drained of the food. So pillows and blankets you'll find all over the place, and that's to encourage the souls to rest. And right down there is a canonical face painting that you'll see that's very typical that is found during this part of the day.
You guys know what sugar skulls are?
Did anyone get a sugar skull in their packet?
You're a quiet audience.
You want to stand up and show what it looks like? So what he has in his packet that he got is actually a Day of the Dead as a sugar skull. Those are pretty common. A lot of the famous artists used to have these around their house. Frida Kahlo was known for them. They're commonly given as gifts and as mementos, and it's common practice to write the name of the recipient on the forehead with frosting.
It's actually more sugar, but yeah.
There you go.
They turn it into a frosting. But for the celebrations, it's a lot of reminiscing the dead, and they do come back. There are gifted people. Yet again, I'm going to take it a little bit deeper than the Americanized version. Is their shaman and the flowers and all that good stuff. They are known to come back, and some of the people do see their relatives. It's pretty common throughout Mexico. So.
And just to let it be known that it doesn't just happen in the public areas, it happens in businesses and in schools as well. You'll find these great big altars filled with ofrendas in every part of Mexico that you go to during these two particular days. The official buildings are a little bit more secular. They take the religious pictures out, so there's not, the traditional altar will have the flower, they'll have the food, they'll have pictures of the Blessed Virgin Mary and of any religious figure that they have, but the secular are more, or the public are more secular, so they take all the religious out of it. They basically have, there's a relatively recent practice, which started around the 18th and 19th centuries, and that's to write the calaveras, which are poems. And they're very satirical. They poke fun at the deceased person in a nice sort of way. So very satirical poems. Newspapers still do the figurative, or the political things with the Katrina. They poke fun of politicians. They poke fun of everybody else that's in the news at that point in time. The cartoonists, one of the most famous is Jose Guadalupe Posada, and he's going to be coming up in a few slides. When dancers dance, like we were doing, they actually have shells on their costumes, and that's to figuratively wake the dead. So these are a few examples of Jose Guadalupe Posada's work, and he's most famous for that one right there, the Katrina.
Okay, so to ask another question, what is the Spanish name for the Mexican hat dance? The Spanish name for the Mexican hat dance. Now, when we say this, we say the Spanish name first, and in parentheses, we say Mexican hat dance. Does anyone know what this is?
Shall we give them a hint? Shall we give them a hint? The name of the dance actually begins with a J, and it's 2 words.
There's a hot sauce, that's one of the words.
Yeah.
No, there's a hot sauce. And the first word means mixture in Spanish. Mm-hmm. No? No takers.
Anybody have a guess? The formal name for the Mexican hat dance is jarabe tapatio.
Speak up, come on, I have prizes here, and flowers, and all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
Continue.
So Posada's work was mostly done as a way of satire, and basically he was the one who kind of started this whole figure of the Katrina. And if you look in certain stores, even around here in Albuquerque, there's a store in Nob Hill called Mas y Mas, and they have little Katrina figures of pretty much every occupation that you can think of. Teachers, students, politicians, whatever. And in Mexico, these things are custom made to fit whoever you want to give it to. The Katrina was to poke fun of the upper class bourgeoisie during the reign of Porfirio Diaz. So this is pre-revolution, pre-Mexican Revolution around 1910. Today, this once powerful satiric image has become a reminder of this celebration. So we see them and we don't really think of the pre-revolution, we think of Day of the Dead.
So some of the main traditions in Day of the Dead are the ofrendas, or the altars, the offerings. The Catrinas are very important. I think to reiterate what she's saying is the Catrinas are a idolized version of a very rich woman who donated a lot of her money to the revolution. She did this in secret, but as time progressed, historically, they found out who she was.
Okay. And if you look at some of the pictures here, the one... Sorry, guys.
Go back. Go back to the lake.
This one right there on the far left, that is an example of an altar. And if you look carefully, the picture of the deceased is going to be, you know, traditionally in the middle. You'll see all the ofrendas that are left, all the offerings that are left. The time and the money that they put in this is you know, it's enormous for them. It's almost like you plan all year for this one event. And in certain families, this is the way that they honor their loved ones. It's not just the masses, it's not just anything, it's basically this.
So one of the regions where they practice this the most is a state called Michoacan. And as you can see, this is Mexico, a map of Mexico, and these are the states that are of Mexico. At one time there was 9, because they did take a divide from the conquest, and a lot of these states weren't what they are now. They were together. They were considered one, but they had different pueblos, or different cities. But for this in particular state, we had to dance prior to any of you arriving. But in this state, they practice...
They practice a lot of the... It's more celebrated in this area. And the area that we're talking about is the area of Pátzcuaro, Michoacán, especially in the area of Lake Pátzcuaro. Okay, so in this particular town of Michoacan State, the Day of the Dead ceremonies really come to life. Really, no pun intended here, guys. The Day of the Dead ceremonies are extensively celebrated. Among them are major craft competitions, extensive remodeling and repair of the cemetery. In the early morning hours, a devotional mass of Velación de los Angelitos, starting on November 1st. And this honors the children that have died in the previous year. During the day, there's another celebration called a Teruscan. And this is an event where the children of the town go from rooftop to rooftop, gather all the treats that are left there, and then bring them to the square so that they are cooked and everybody can feast on them. So it's kind of like I guess you could call it a reverse trick or treat, if you will.
So these festivities continue until midnight of November 2nd. The events begin with the
Velación de los Difuntos.
Wake for the deceased. At this time, the men will traditionally wait outside the cemetery while the women and children will leave offerings for the deceased on embroidered napkins. When daybreak occurs, a collection of food is taken up for the priest, and everyone goes to Mass. So church is heavily incorporated in Mexico. I know us Americans are a little not there with the Catholic tradition, but in Mexico they both go hand in hand. The Catholic tradition flows directly into pre-Hispanic and ritualistic behaviors.
Okay, so other festive activities follow, such as the Juego Prehispánico Pelota Encendida, which translates into the pre-Hispanic ball game, which is lighted. And in that case, it actually takes place in an old ball court that the ancient Aztecs used to play on the evening of November 1st. The ball court that occurs in is called Las Yacatas, and during this game, participants are actually playing with a ball that is set on fire. And this predates basketball. So basically what they try and do is they try and hit it with everything but their hands. They can use anything but their hands, and their hoop is not 10 feet above the ground, but 30 feet above the ground. And it's sideways. So if you rotate a basketball hoop about 90 degrees, that's what they have to shoot through. And this thing is on fire, so they had to wear a lot of extra protective coating.
She's not lying. It's true.
it actually happens that the ancient Aztecs use this as a way to see who is going to be sacrificed or not. They use this as a game. And the winning team, the one who would score 3 points, was sometimes saved, and sometimes the winning team was the one that would die. So the ball itself is probably about this big in diameter, and it's hard rubber. So a lot of bruising and on fire. So a lot of bruising to be expected, and using everything but your hands to throw that ball up. So a lot of coordination. Okay, so in another region in Michoacan called Janitzio, November 1st of the year after a child's death, the godparents set a table in the parents' house with confections, fruit, pan de muerto, a cross, a rosary, which is used to ask the Virgin Mary to pray for them, and candles. It's meant to memorialize the child's life in respect and indebtedness to the parents. There's also dancing with multi-hue costumes, often with a skull-shaped masks and devil masks in the plaza or in the garden of the town. And at midnight on November 2nd, the people light candles and ride winged boats called mariposas or butterflies to this island in the middle of the state called Janitzio. There was a cemetery there, and they honor and they celebrate the lives of those who had lived.
So this is the state of Michoacan. This is where we're at still, and
actually now we move to another state. Yeah, this is actually.
Well, we're leaving Michoacan. Sorry.
We're leaving Michoacan. We're going on to another state in the district now. So another town in the district called Mexique, and it has a lot of cultural impact here in this particular one. Again, 2 days of ritual from November 1st to 2nd. The village and its church graveyard has become famous in Mexico City, in the metropolitan area for this. In and around the cemetery, thousands of Mexican and international visitors experience the sights, sounds, and smells of the rituals, cultural events, and stand selling food, crafts, and other items. The modern celebrations are an extension of the cult of the dead that existed here since the pre-Hispanic times. So this is not just a modern day thing. This goes way, way back, which is what we're trying to emphasize through this.
Are you guys still awake? Are you there with us? Hello, hello. Yes.
Yes. With the Day of the Dead, it's, I guess if you kind of look at the universal aspect of it, there's, for every good, there's also a bad. And the devil just happens to be our picture of what the bad, what the evil is.
To go a little bit deeper with your question, it's parallelism. So good and bad, the good witch, the bad witch. And for the devil, it's important to understand that he, in the pagan aspect and the Catholic aspect, how they intertwine. And that's one of the things that is emphasized even in our dances. There's a dance that we dance, well, it's primarily a woman's dance. I'm not allowed to dance that dance. But it's called Anquien me leve el diablo. And basically what that means is, when will the devil take me? And the women, in a sense, are parading as if the devil's going to take them. They are flirting with the devil, but the devil can't take them. So there's these contrasts that get presented because of Christianity and because of the rituals and just the history behind Day of the Dead as a whole. Now, like again, the Americanized thing is what we think of, like what we're wearing right now is we're performing for you as you think of the dancers. This, my jacket, my sombrero, what she's wearing right there is, you know, what you think of, but if we were doing ritualistic dances, it'd be very different. We would be masked, and I would most likely be a woman, and she would be a man. And there's a lot of parallels that they draw upon. And that's because it's not necessarily a gender bias or a binary. It's more so to talk about historic. It's a lot of historic. It's about conquest. Does that help? It's a long answer.
Okay, so again, in this town in Mexico City, preparations for the celebration can begin 2 or 3 months in advance, when families begin to buy plates and utensils that will be used only for the ofrendas, and women embroider napkins and tablecloths for the occasion. In mid-October, the residents place a large paper star lantern over their doorways, which will remain until November 3rd. So, if this reminds you of the Christian five-pointed star, the Star of David that guides the shepherds into Bethlehem, we can think of it that way, I guess. Because that star is kind of like a symbol to help guide the dead home. The purpose of the star, like I said, is to help guide the dead to come back to visit the community. And in the days leading up to the Day of the Dead, fields around the community that had been planted with the marigolds bloom, and the fragrance can be detected. Other aromas, such as those of the fruits in season and pan de muerto, have given rise to the expression "ya huele a muertos," so now it smells like the dead. Or "ya se siente muertitos," now the dead are near, or now the little dead are near, and can be felt, indicating that the Day of the Dead is near. In the public primary schools, students and teachers arranging the school's altar, and students creating the miniature ones, sometimes with themes. These are placed on public display with the ofrendas of the Cristobal Colón Primary School, which is the most visited due to the school's location near the church. Days before celebrations begin, the tomb cleaning and repair commences. So there's a lot of, just a lot of community building, I guess you could say. The community aspect is really brought big in this one.
I think one thing that's important is that it's community in Mexico. A lot of things are community driven. They think in the mentality of a village, of a pueblo, of being confined with someone for so long. You already know how they are, you already know how all these people around you are. So in essence, if we were all together in this room, we would be considered a pueblo. I would know how you are, how you get when you party. I would know that you like to dance. I know that, your mom is, one of the ones, the best cooks in the pueblo. It's that kind of thing, is that they're so close. Yeah, exactly. They're so close that everyone has a job when it comes to this, so.
And literally it is mi casa es tu casa. And my house is your house. So the final preparations take place on October 30th with family ofrendas laid out in homes. Families have their own variations on the ritual, but some things are common. For example, the offerings of bread, flowers, candles, a container with water, paired with a container of salt, incense, and photographs. For the most part, the ritual is a mixture of pre-Hispanic and Catholic rites, with the addition of photographs being a modern touch. Most of these offerings are made privately in homes on altars arranged for this day, but the elements that can be seen at the cemetery on the graves. One element that is local is a donut-shaped bread with a dark pink glaze called roscas rosas, which are laid out along with the pan de muerto. People open their doors here to invite the dead to visit. So from October 31st to November 2nd, friends and family will come and visit the ofrendas, and these visitors will bring other items for the ofrendas as well, generally things that the deceased liked in life. As the visitors come by, the ofrenda grows, so you'll see these huge offerings. If it's a founder of the town or whatever, a really popular person, these huge offerings, these huge ofrendas.
They're spectacles, basically. It's not, oh, that little table there, look at that. It's something that's grand.
It's huge.
It's very much so.
So the host will reciprocate by offering food and drink to the visitors. So again, that very communal property, you bring, I give you something.
Do you have a question off the top of your head?
No, I think it's one more.
Do you have any more questions?
Huh?
To ask them a question, do you have one?
Oh. Yeah. Ask them. Okay, we have another question for you guys. There is a popular symbol on the Mexican flag, which was given to the Aztecs in a dream. Can anyone recall the symbol?
It's
Eagle holding a snake? Is that what you said? Or it's eating a snake? Yes.
And actually, in New Mexico, the big eagle is holding that small eagle, which is supposed to represent Mexico. I don't know if any of you knew that, but our state seal actually incorporates this as well, is the eagle landed on the cactus and caught a snake.
Okay, so on midnight of October 31st, the church bells signal the arrival of the souls of the dead, or more importantly, of the children who had departed. The ofrendas to the children are often decorated with brightly colored toys. One traditional toy is a dog, and that's because the dog is said to be a guardian of the gates to the land of the dead called Mitla.
Do you guys know what chihuahuas are? Does anyone have a chihuahua? Raise your hand.
2 people.
Just two. Just 2 of you? Okay. Come up. The 2 of you that have chihuahuas. I'm serious, don't be shy.
Those are actually the dogs itself. They're a precursor of the chihuahua. Okay, so for this day, no offerings should be left for the adults because it's believed that the children get kind of greedy and will become angry if anything is left that is not for them. So on November 2nd, on the morning of November 1st, a breakfast is led on the ofrenda. From the outside, this ofrenda is a trail of white flour called the aile, which symbolizes the purity of these souls. And the souls of the children visit from midnight of October 31st until November 1st. At this time, after the sun passes the zenith, the local belief holds that the souls of the children return back to the land of the dead, and the souls of the adults survive and stay throughout November 2nd. Midnight falls on November 1st. The air fills with the music of tropical and mariachi groups. There is also a contest among skulls that has been fabricated from cardboard, painted, and inscribed with satire, tall tales, and jokes. A mock funeral procession comes through featuring a supposed widow who shouts picarous phrases of the crowd about the loss of her husband being carried in the casket. The procession moves toward the graveyard and helpers solicit contributions for the burial, making jokes along with the attendees. And when they arrive at the graveyard, instead of burying the supposed husband, he jumps out of the coffin and runs off, terrified, among the crowd causing laughter. So a lot of satire, a lot of jokes, a lot of humor.
It's a lot of fun that they poke at. They are very, in some people's sense of humor, it might be morbid what they do, but I think when you're on Earth, as long as, humanly possible, you get to a certain point, especially in the Mexican culture, where it's not worshiping the dead, it's not venerating them, it's in a sense of honoring them and allowing yourself to understand that we're born to die. And a lot of people don't get that whole aspect, and it's kind of harsh, it's straightforward, but it really is, you're born to die. And with these festivals, the imbibing, I don't know if anyone knows what that means, but that's a big word for taking place and taking part in festivities, is the point of understanding that and the reality that you will succumb to death.
Okay, so on 7 p.m. on November 1st, the church bells ring again, signaling the beginning of the hour of the campañera. So groups of youths wander from house to house carrying bells and sing, "A las ánimas benditas les prendemos sus ceritas, compañero mi tamal." So basically, to the blessed souls, we light our candles, compañero mi tamale, after which they receive tamales, candy, or fruit. On the morning of November 2nd, grave cleaning and decoration begin in earnest. Graves in the main cemeteries, which surround the church of San Andrés Apostol, are decorated with flowers, especially the marigolds, or the Santuchil, candles, and other items. The tombs are decorated carefully and sometimes elaborately, making images of the Virgin, cross, or other icons, with flowers, flower petals, or colored sawdust. These graves are prepared by the alumbrada, which begins at 8 p.m. when the church bells ring yet again. By this time, the church has its own large ofrenda and its lights are dimmed. At this hour, the cemetery around the church is full of color from the flower and the glowing due to the light of thousands of burning candles and thick smoke from the copal incense. So actually in this town, it's international. People come from all over the world just to see this one spectacular show, and then they go back.
And on that international note is conquest. There's German, there's French, there's Spanish, there's Danish,
There's even Japanese.
And there's Japanese, and as well as Chinese. So Mexico is pretty much a mixing pot like America. However, each class and division of people who have made it to Mexico, especially the artist colonies, it's very important to remember that they did partake in this. And again, back to the community, is that they would incorporate themselves into this, and they then became somewhat like a citizen, if that makes sense, without governmental, things getting in the way.
Okay. It has been said that la gente mexicana tiene una fascinación con dos cosas. Una es de las flores y la otra es la muerte. So Mexicans have a tendency to be fascinated with two things. One is flowers and one is death. It is possible that to some cultures this is true. However, it's only because of the European view that we live on a linear way. So we are born, we live, we die. Whereas the Mexicans had a totally different viewpoint. We are born, we live, we die, and we are continuing to be reborn in a great cycle of life. So we thank you for your attendance at this presentation. We hope that you found it interesting and evocative. Now we're going to turn to you and ask if you guys have any questions.
Questions? Should I ask you questions for free things? No? Okay. Let's see. Embroidery. There's a state in Mexico where embroidery is predominant. If you can name one of these states, I'll give you something. Embroidery is very predominant in one of these states. Anyone have any idea about Mexican states? Ooh, dead on, you got it.
Excellent, good job.
You get double prizes. No, because he got it right. Hey, don't be mean. There's still more. So Oaxaca actually is well known for that. Oaxaca is also well known for the Day of the Dead. They have a very big festival there. A lot of things come out of Oaxaca as imports to our lovely Mexican markets here, and as well as different places in the U.S. and as well throughout Mexico.
As related to the dance, there is one particular state in Mexico which draws a lot from the Spanish culture. Can anyone name that particular state?
They're outside. From the Spanish culture, they're outside actually. You might have passed them on your way.
Yeah, there's a bunch of dancers out there that are doing this particular style of dance. And this has drawn a lot for our Ballet Foklorico as well.
They have a fascination for polka dots. Where are you at? I heard you. Come here. Flamenco, yes.
Okay.
The state that is related, though.
That is related, though. What is that state?
Do you know? Okay, well, the state that is related is Veracruz, and it's a Spanish port. I don't know if any of you knew that. You still get a prize. Come here.
So the true Spanish port of Mexico, where the Spanish actually came in, was the port of Veracruz. Okay, that's where Hernan Cortez made his landing.
And also the flamenco is very predominant in the style of dance that we do. We actually have it's a mixture. Mm-hmm. And in our costumes or regalia, especially the females, they share a lot with the flamenco dress. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is, I don't know if you're familiar with Spanish lace. Females might know what I'm talking about and identify more, so it's similar to that, so.
So in this particular state that we're talking about, the costume is pure white. It's almost like a wedding dress. They have an apron, which is embroidered with roses in honor of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The apron is called a delantal. They have the enagua, or the slip. And they have the piñata, or the hair comb. But because it's traditionally so hot in this particular state, the color that both male and female dance is traditionally white.
On the third floor of this building, there is a depiction of something Mexican. I know, let me finish my words. I know it's confusing. I'm giving you riddles here. I'm gonna make you work. There's a depiction of something Mexican on the third floor of this building. It is actually located to the south. It is a circular painting. It has a lot to do with the apocalypse 2012.
Yes.
She got it.
Come on up. The Aztec calendar was well known for being actually the Aztec calendar had traditionally 16 months to it, and according to some readings that I've done, about 9 of those months were related in some way, shape, or form to celebrations of the Day of the Dead.
I'm going to ask another question about this thing located in this building that we've just passed by. It's the Mayan, or some people refer to it as Aztec calendar. In the center, why does he have his tongue sticking out? The sun god. Why does he have his tongue sticking out? Does anyone know? This is very, very close to something that we need on a daily basis. Something that falls from the sky. Who said water? Did you say water? Do you have one more? Do you have any more questions? We have one more treat. Do you want me to do it?
Sure.
What is the name in Spanish for a person who sells ice cream? Or their, and you have to tell me in Spanish though. He sells ice cream. He sells ice cream. He's a person and he has a title. He pushes something.
There you go. Ballet
Tacos would have been too simple, so. So that's the end of our presentation. If you want some flowers, by all means. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.